And I think that most content creators should try and adopt that philosophy of being a passionate blank.
Are you looking at it from your perspective, or are you looking at it from the viewers?
What emotional change should I get from unblocking my toilet?
What do you tell the creator who isn't really facing the fact that their content isn't good enough? A lot of creators are really impatient.
I like to get videos done in a single day.
When you ultimately realize that the algorithm really truly equals people.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's so great to see you here again for another Video Creators Podcast episode brought to you by vidIQ, like we do every Monday. We're just hanging out, sharing more advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, helping you grow your business, reach more people, and change their lives. Today, I am hanging out not just with Sam and Blake, two of the YouTube strategists on our team. Today, we actually have a special guest. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Rob Wilson, YouTuber in residence for the vidIQ channel. Guys,
hey.
How's it going? Welcome.
Hello, Ingrid, Sam, Blake. How are y'all doing in Video Creators Podcast land?
Okay, now I know y'all is not a UK word.
But
that was pretty impressive.
It's not a Canadian thing either.
No, all right, yeah, fair enough.
It's definitely Floridian. So.
Rob, we would love for you to share a little bit about you for our audience so they get to know you.
Yeah, so I would say that 99.9% of everything I learned about YouTube education came from Tim Schmoyer. So I am one of Tim's children. That sounds really weird when you say
Number 8.
But it's kind of true.
I hope he hears this.
Kind of true. So yeah, I started my YouTube journey back in 2008. Took it seriously in 2012. Then the magical tweet, which I've mentioned before, that I posted to vidIQ, which is about how to copy tags, because once they were really important. And vidIQ said, we love this video. Do you want to do some freelance work with us? And the rest, as they say, is history, charted in 1,400 videos that I've now made on the vidIQ channel. Wow. 1.5 million subscribers, 100+ million views, which are more important than subscribers, and so on and so forth. But the thing is, I still feel as if I am an imposter when it comes to educating on YouTube. I don't know if you feel the same. It always feels like I am one step ahead of the YouTube audience. And as long as I'm one step ahead, then I can keep sharing that one step ahead knowledge. And that's me in a nutshell, I think.
Oh, I have been watching you for years. So I just want to say thank you because I love your work.
So do you remember me pre-beard?
I don't think so.
You see, that's a litmus test. That was 2019.
Wow.
I do. I was listening back then.
Yeah.
And that's when you started growing your beard.
Yeah, it was after Vid Summit, and I just decided, you know what, I haven't got another conference to go to over the winter, so let's grow a beard and see how it turns out. The wife loved it, and yeah, I think the audience seemed to enjoy it as well. Now all of a sudden, thanks to Sam, this is primal branding, so I'm going to keep it. And then, COVID also happened, and so there was just no reason to shave it because I wasn't going out anywhere, and it's remained to this day.
Well, I think it looks good. I'm sure our audience, I'm curious how many of them are beard lovers or have known you pre-2019 myself. So I'm really excited to have this conversation today because we always love talking about all sorts of strategy to help the audience really grow their reach on the platform. But I'm excited to have your voice into the mix because I feel like this is a common problem that a lot of creators have, really feeling like, they deserve the views and their content is the best. But sometimes it's really hard to take that look and really objectively realize that the content really needs to be leveled up. So I'd love for us to dig into how to address that hard truth from the beginning. What do you guys think?
I feel like, well, even before kind of jumping into, it's really interesting, Rob, what you just said with imposter syndrome. Like, I think that even kind of ties into the topic today too, because, a lot of times, and while we were planning this podcast before kind of shooting today, we were just thinking about a lot of the creators that we work with, and a lot of creators that we work with are kind of authorities in their space. And so we get all kinds of different point of views from these creators. Some of them, it feels really like, my information is the best out there. Why is my YouTube channel not doing so well? But we also get kind of on the other flip of the coin, or the other side of the coin. I'm an authority in the space, but I feel like an imposter in this space. So I guess I would be curious to hear from you, Rob, just even with the vidIQ channel, maybe how you've kind of navigated that as you've been growing it over the years.
So I've always thought of myself, and I still do this to this day, as like not necessarily an authority or an expert, or I hate this word guru. I've never claimed to be a guru, and I never wish to be one. What I always describe myself is as a passionate educator. And I think that most content creators should try and adopt that philosophy of being a passionate blank, whatever that is, whatever your topic is. So passionate tech enthusiast or passionate video gamer. And I think it puts you in the mindset of, I love to do this. And I just want to share my experiences, my knowledge and my wisdom, but not necessarily my expertise, because there are many paths to YouTube success, but I've just gone down that road. So I feel as if I have something valuable to share. And so I think that's kind of what places me in that semi-imposter syndrome, in that I can tell you how I think you should do a video intro and write this title because it's worked for me. But if you ask me anything about playlists, I hate playlists. I have no idea how to use them. And even after an audit through video creators, I'm still saying, nah, it's just not worth my time. I just can't be bothered. But I know it's important and works for other people. So I don't know if that answers your question, Sam, but it kind of suggests that I'm always learning. There's always more to learn. And it's not just YouTube education, it's any discipline that you passionately approach on YouTube.
Yeah, I think there's sorry. I think what you said, like, it's interesting having kind of this healthy balance of the passion plus having something valuable to share. And I think that sort of combination of the two creates kind of this healthy place where you're coming from, because if one is missing, like if it's maybe all passion, but you don't have anything valuable to share, it's hard to kind of reach an audience that way. But on the flip side too, and I think a lot of creators, and this is maybe some of what we're going to talk about today, a lot of creators don't really have the passion, but they have great information and they're an expert in their space. And so there's a lot of frustration that can brew behind that, because it's, why is nobody watching my content? Because I have the best information out there, where maybe some, and we're going to talk more about it too later, but some of the issue can be the kind of the passion behind it too. Like, what is really fueling the creation of the content itself, not just the information. So I think that's a really good word. Kind of like having a good balance of the two can really help, for kind of that long-term growth.
I think I can ask you this question, and I think only you are able to answer this because we're in the same space. How often in your coaching and on the Video Creators channel have you seen this comment? I have tried everything you've suggested and it's still not working. Or, my titles are really good, my content is awesome, and I'm still not getting any views. Why?
Yep.
How do you approach that mindset and question?
Yeah. It's funny. That was actually kind of the main question driving this podcast topic. Yeah. I think a lot of creators we work with have, we will jump in having kind of audited their channel. We'll kind of prep for maybe a consultation or some form of coaching that we're jumping in with them and engaging with them in. And usually the kind of the first, and I think maybe it comes from a place of defensiveness, like, this is my baby. Like, I've worked so hard. I'm doing it right. And so when you have somebody else who's not this close to the channel and this close to the content, sharing some advice of, well, we've worked with hundreds of creators this is some kind of proven strategies and tactics that have worked. What if we were to try this and changing this thing? There's a lot of resistance sometimes with, but my content's already great. Like, that's not the thing. It's got to be the keyword, or there's got to be this like silver bullet thing that's going to fix it.
YouTube is against me. Why is the algorithm not rewarding me?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like there's an underlying thing here that I would like to poke at, because you talked about imposter syndrome, and everything that Sam was just saying just talks about it from a different perspective. When I personally think of imposter syndrome, and when I feel it myself, I'm making everything about me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I let go of that and I make it about the other person, whether that's somebody in the room with me or whether that is the person on the other side of the camera lens, then I feel like there's a shift in the content even, or whatever the conversation is. And there's a deeper connection. So I would probably push back and say, if you feel like your content is all that and your titles and thumbnails are all that, are you looking at it from your perspective, or are you looking at it from the viewers? Because the only person the algorithm cares about is the viewer.
I'm curious, Ingrid, how do you ensure that you're always looking at it from that point of view? Because one of the things I've started to do recently is when I'm building out a script or a template for a video. So this is before I even press record. We're in the what's the title and thumbnail stage. I've added these two sections to the script, which are what's the ideal comment? Like, what do you want somebody coming out of this video to ideally say? And the other one is what's the one objective you want the viewer to take away from this? That's how I'm doing it, but I'm curious, like how you're making it about the viewer as opposed to being about the creator.
I would actually even push on that second one a little bit, because I love the comment when I do that too. But one of the things that I do is not just what I want them to take away from it, but how do I want them to feel?
So an emotional shift.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
From beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking about it actually last night too. I was like, the idea of what's my target emotion more than my target, like just the person. What's the outcome for this for them? Is kind of what I started thinking about, because that's what then forces me to take the pressure off myself and think about them in the long run. And that way I'm creating with them in mind rather than just something that I enjoy, because now I'm forced to think in that perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think too, even like knowing where your audience is, like in kind of their life circumstances or like their life journey, I think you could even pinpoint what is their emotion about this particular topic or subject before watching this video. And then how are they going to feel after watching this video? Even that can really help bring you some clarity in even how you approach the content in the first place. Like, how am I going to make them feel confident or equipped or whatever is going to help kind of battle the current kind of emotional stakes that they're currently experiencing.
So in YouTube genres such as vlogging, entertainment, maybe reaction channels, etc., it may be more obvious what the emotion might be, but let's talk about a utility channel, for example. We're utility channels in some respect. What emotional change should I get from unblocking my toilet? Should it just be simple relief, or can we go deeper than this?
I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. I think why are you wanting to do it yourself rather than hiring somebody? I think for me it could be a feeling of self-confidence, like I accomplished something, I did it myself. Yep. It could be just impressing your wife. You want to feel like you're able to do something. I don't know whatever that may be, but I mean, it's a weird way to impress somebody. But it's possible that's the emotion behind it.
It's funny. Title now. Unblock your title.
To impress your wife.
Spouse.
The thumbnail. The wife is like,
I'm not a love expert. Okay, just don't ask me those kind of questions.
But really, think about it. When you really nail something like that, you've got the best title and you've got the thumbnail. Chances are you're probably sharing it with your spouse. I know I do, because I get excited.
I have literally worked with this channel. It was a DIY channel. And when we dug into like, why is your audience wanting to do this? Like, why do they care about kind of the doing it yourself sort of thing? It was literally, well, I think it's because they want to, feel confident and have their wife be proud of them and kind of serve them in that way too. So this is just funny because this is an actual creator that I've worked with.
For me, I'll never forget searching for how to fix my toilet handle because my toilet was leaking, right? The water was just constantly running and it was impacting our water bill and all sorts of things. And I remember it was on a Sunday and I was like done with it. And so I YouTubed the answer and realized that it was a really short fix. And I was so excited by that. I got in my car, ran to the hardware store because I'm the handy one in the house, ran to the hardware store, got the pieces I needed, came back, fixed it in under 5 minutes. And the first person I went up to was my husband because I not only fixed the problem, but I saved us money. And so that was exciting for me from just watching how to fix your toilet video.
So I guess to summarize, like irrespective of the video topic, the emotional transformation can be an unlock moment for the creator to try and establish what that is.
Yeah, I would even say there could be value in a video like that to even like show maybe the creator themselves fixes the thing and then they, you know, it doesn't have to be this long-winded whole tangent, but maybe you show the wife coming in. There's kind of this transformation moment. It almost becomes a bit of a story structure versus just kind of ending it. All right, we're fixed, done, bye. Because I think that's what creates the whole, you know, my thermostat. I like had to fix my thermostat the other day. I could not tell you who the creator was. You know, got exactly what I needed, but there was no connection or anything deeper than that for me.
I love how you leveled that up, Sam, and you went from
thanks
just wanting to have. You're welcome. I feel like we need some sound effect there. You went from just actually wanting to experience an emotion, but then you leveled it up with real deep storytelling there, which is a powerful thing that we know.
I think a lot of times, like, you know, I think of the picture's worth 1,000 words. I think it's so true for YouTube and the thumbnails because it's literally a picture. But I think taking that into the video too and kind of showing versus just leaving it to the imagination. You know, when you tell a good story, the viewer is imagining themselves in the story. So if they can kind of see that emotion transformation happening in the video, they can imagine that for themselves too, and just kind of create a stronger connection.
So let's take this the practical route now, and because this was a great start to this conversation. What do you tell the creator who isn't really facing the fact that their content isn't good enough? I hate to put it that way, but that's just the hard truth.
I think for me, a lot of times I like to just be curious and ask questions. Usually I'll kind of start with, what have you tried in the past, or what have you been trying to, because usually we'll start with kind of the frustration of, you know, why are we talking today? What are some of your goals? Where are we at right now? And usually it's, you know, just my content's great. It's just not reaching anybody and I'm frustrated. So usually the first question is, well, what have you been trying? And then from there, that will help kind of highlight either they're not really trying very much right now. I think I'm not sure about you guys, a lot of times the response I usually get is something around time. I'm super busy. I just don't have time to really make the videos better. And, or it's YouTube just hates me. Like I'm doing everything I can, but YouTube hates me. So that's kind of how I approach it, but I'd be curious to hear from you guys.
I think even asking them, like, have you ever gotten feedback on your videos before too? If things aren't performing, I mean, same with any art form. I think if songwriting or even if one was a school for animation, like everything was just feedback based to get better, because same as what you mentioned before, you come in nose blind to your own content. You don't know what's working, what isn't, or I can think I'm creating something really like amazing, even like, again, animation perspective, but until someone looks at it and points out the things that I don't see, I'm like, oh, now I see what I can improve upon. That's why people come to us for coaching or consultations, is to have those moments. But you can even ask, I've heard creators even asking their friends, hey, watch my video, and they're just watching their eyes. Where do they look away? How are they reacting to the content? That gives you full, like, you know, a free person to look at something, give you full feedback, just watching their face of what you can improve upon. And that might open up something in your mind, like, okay, maybe I'm not thinking about this in depth enough to keep them engaged.
I think the questions I'm usually asking are, what's the data telling you? Like, you know, if the average view duration is 10%, well, the data is disagreeing with your assessment of a content or the click-through rate, et cetera, et cetera. But then, as somebody mentioned earlier on, getting the human emotional element, what are the comments telling you? And you can tell pretty quickly if videos are having a more than surface level impact on a viewer by the comments. I've just finished literally editing a video by a creator who has made their first video, and it's on a really old space simulator game called Wing Commander. Like, this is from the 1990s. And you'd think, that's a very old game. And not only that, they made it a 2-hour epic retrospective. First video. And that seems to go against all conventions of, wow, you're going really, really super niche with a really ambitious project, and you're trying to ask first-time viewers to commit to 2 hours. It's got 100,000 views. Right? That's their first video. Brilliant. And all of the comments are saying, wow, this is a fantastic effort for your first video. This really brought me back into the game. I can't wait to see what you do next. So you could tell from the audience reaction. But then the other thing I would also ask the creator is, okay, so take a look at your current video. Now go back to your first video or a video you made 6 months ago. Do you think those videos are of a similar quality? And the chances are they'll probably say, no, the video I made 6 months ago was terrible. Okay, so that's one step in your journey. But the viewer doesn't have tolerance for that improvement in quality. They just want to be satisfied by the videos that YouTube's bringing to them, not necessarily the creator's enhancement of audio or visual from one video to another. So yeah, very complicated questions. It's never easy, is it? But it always seems to be the case that the creator thinks there's a simple solution. And in effect, it's months, sometimes years of hard work over dozens, if not hundreds of videos.
It's very interesting because I feel like sometimes creators, like you said, they overcomplicate things. They edit the life out of a video. And it's not uncommon, when talking to a creator and auditing their channel, to look at like that #1 performing video. And I always get the question of, I don't know why this performs so well, and then we look at their current content, and usually they've told a story and they've done it very organically and very well, but they've edited the life out of everything because they wanted to have the best title. They wanted to have the best thumbnail. And now they're looking at hooks more intentionally, and they think they know what they want, and they edit out because they feel like they have to, beastify this, to kind of poke at the Mr. Beast's channel. That's not a fit for every single niche, and it may not be a fit for your channel. You don't need to necessarily go so fast paced. You don't need to edit out all the pauses. You don't need to edit out the life sometimes in the story. And I feel like for a lot of creators, they do that, and it can be a real challenge. So then you're faced with looking at the content, and you're saying you just want it to be better, but you have to also kind of look at the human part of it. And I feel like a lot of creators miss that.
I totally agree. And I think, Rob, what you were saying, like the key is satisfaction. You said that word, viewer satisfaction. And I agree with you, Ingrid. I think depending on your niche, it can look like, what is good content and how do you make the viewer feel satisfied? It's going to look super different from like a really punchy challenge channel, Mr. Beast type of channel versus like, maybe more of a slow paced story channel. I'm thinking of like the Cottage Fairy. I know you know her, Ingrid, like very aesthetic, like the viewer is going to feel something very different from a different type of channel. So like having that question in the back of your mind, how do you make the viewer feel satisfied? And it's not easy. It's not going to be the easy, quick hack that's going to blow your channel up. It takes work, but I think, really keeping that in mind really will carry you forward.
Yeah, for me, and similar story. I mean, to kind of add on to what we always say, it comes back to target audience. For a lot of time, my content thought, okay, Mr. Beast is doing it well. I'm going to mimic that in my tech content. And the comments I would get would be like, this is way too fast. Please slow it down. Why is it punchy? Why is there so much happening? It's like, hey, it doesn't resonate with my audience. So just because it works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to and that was me over editing and editing the life out of it and the personality out of it, because I was trying to emulate something that worked for one audience, but obviously did not resonate with the people I was trying to interact with.
I feel like that's the journey, right? Too, because a lot of times we just have to create. And that's what another thing that I also recommend to a lot of creators is experiment with lots of different things, until you've created 1,400 videos like Rob here. I think I got that number right. I don't know if I'll ever get to that number, but each time you do it, you're going to experiment and you're going to try something new. If you're not getting the views and you have over edited your videos, pull back, a little bit. Really kind of go back to the basics, like what we were talking about here. I think that, so far the three of you gave some amazing thoughts here. What have you tried in the past? And I would even add, how can you tweak that? Have you ever gotten feedback? Don't ask your mom. She's going to, or, somebody who's really, really close to you. They're going to tell you, oh, that's so great. Ask somebody who will be willing to be honest with you. What's the data telling you? I love that. Because if it's disagreeing with what you think it should be, it's telling you that people aren't responding, and I also love what you said, Rob, with what are the comments telling you, because I think that's so, so powerful. I'm curious, Rob, do you have any additional thoughts here?
So something that interesting when you start talking about the data was, what do you say to a creator if, they don't have sufficient data to give them an accurate idea of how their videos are performing? Like, they've got 10 videos on the channel, they're getting a dozen views per video, but they still think their content should be getting them more views because they're comparing it to another channel which is slightly bigger, and they seem to think that their content is of a better standard.
I don't know. I think my approach for people is that's exactly it. I mean, we don't have enough data yet. Like, if you're a brand new channel, we're still figuring out, YouTube's still trying to figure out who your audience is. We're still surfacing it. We're still figuring out where we're going. And we need to have more, pinpoints of how do we pull more data in to get more understanding of who your audience is as a whole. So in that case, I tell people, let's focus on more quantity right now to get content out there so that we can get that data to make a decision of what can we work on right now to focus on to really get where we want to go goal-wise, but audience-wise as well too.
Do you think there is a period of I don't know how else to phrase this, but like a YouTube rite of passage, where you have to say to yourself, my expectations are 0, right? Yep. It doesn't matter how many people watch my content or how often it's viewed. As you say, YouTube's search and discovery systems, not the algorithm, has to identify the right viewers for the right content. And that takes time. Yep. And you as a creator have to realize that if you get successful at YouTube, you're going to be doing this for years, and that might mean hundreds of videos. And you've got to just enjoy the creative process unless you can afford to outsource it as quickly as possible. So do you think there should be a time period where you say to a creator, do not go into the YouTube studio for X amount of time, just make content? Or is that creating without a plan?
I feel like
there's two good points.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I feel like
go ahead. No, you go.
No, allow me.
You go.
I feel like a lot of creators are really impatient with this, and they just think, I'm going to hack the system, right? I've listened to all these YouTube gurus, right? And they feel like they have the magic formula to get there. But I don't think you can shortcut experience. If you do, chances are you've gotten it lucky, and it's really hard to reproduce that over and over again. You kind of, like you said, Rob, have to go through the rite of passage. Now, all 4 of us are YouTubers in addition to doing this professionally in the space. So, I mean, I know from my own experience, until I sat back, did not worry about the end result, and focused on one thing at a time. So it was just hooks at first. right? Because I was in a learning period. Now, I had already put out hundreds of videos by then, but I still needed to learn how to properly do something. And I couldn't do that in one video. You have to try it, look at the data. How can you then make it better? Try it again and repeat, rinse and repeat that until you've got that down.
I think one thing you touched upon, Rob, too, was the idea of enjoying the creative process. And there's a lot of people who come in with a mindset of like, I just want the result. And that's where people fall up. It's because even earlier we talked about passion around your niche, or even around YouTube. Like, you have to have a passion around that process and figuring out what works. It's a puzzle, and some people love puzzles, and it works. It's great for them to kind of play that game. But people come in with the impatience of just wanting the results of, you know, monetization or having a big channel, but look at the creative journey. And this is like one thing I think I mentioned before is like, I feel like as a world, we've become so used to instant gratification or things just happening at our fingertips so quickly that I almost love YouTube because it forces us to be patient, because you have to be in a lot of ways. But learning to understand that, and definitely, yeah, I think there's a rite of passage of waiting. I think the idea of coming in and healthy mindsets, coming in, okay, I'm not going to expect anything. I'm just going to put content out there, see what happens, and then try to learn from it for the first, at least, you know, give it so many videos, put a number there, or a year, and then try to say, okay, now let's try to refine some things to really figure out how can I forge a better path, whatever my goals may be.
Yeah. Well, I even think for a newer creator too, like, even if you don't have a ton of data yet, you can extract so much knowledge from just watching the last video you just shot. Like, I don't have a lot of videos on my personal channel, and it's still, after each video, I can really easily watch it and be like, okay, I can make that better. I can do this better. I can do this better. Let's make it a little bit better for the next time. And so you don't even have to go super deep into your analytics and things. Like, of course you can, and it's helpful, but I think being a student of YouTube, but especially being a student of your own channel, and kind of, you know, it all comes back to target audience too. Like, how do we serve them well and make them feel satisfied? And how can I make this video better than the last one that I just shot? That really helps kind of speed up that rite of passage too, versus just like, we're just throwing the same video out, video after video after video. It's harder to grow from that too.
I feel like a lot of new creators too, something that's a real practical thing would be to also allow some time to pass since you posted. So work on several different things, get your reps in, go the more quantity approach in the beginning if you're small. And then, because I know that, like, if I look at a piece of content that I put my heart and my soul into, I'm like this right away. But 30 days later, I can much more objectively look at a piece of content and say, oh, okay, I see why this didn't connect. You're just in a different mindset.
So quantity versus quality.
In the beginning.
Yes.
In the beginning.
So,
in the beginning.
Again, we'll go back to the one we all know and love, Tim. He said something that really resonated with me, but I couldn't quantify it into a phrase until he said it this way. If you want to learn quantity, if you want to build an audience, quality. I thought that's just the perfect way to encapsulate what many YouTube creators often go through. I kind of personally feel that can shift over time. Like, okay, you do a lot of videos to learn how to do something specifically, and then you apply that skill to build the audience. But then you're not always doing that because you want to learn something else. So then you maybe go a bit more to quantity, back and forth. But, you know, ultimately you're wanting to improve the overall quality of your video, however that is, over the long run.
Yeah, I like to think of kind of the quality and quantity on like a scale with a little slider, and maybe earlier on where it slid a little further to the quantity side. And of course, we're still trying to make it a high quality video, but maybe we're pumping out a little bit more frequently. And then over time, that slider slides more over to the quality so that we are making the best video possible each time.
And sometimes we can go too far. I feel like I've seen creators like the one I worked with previously who went full on quality and was getting so frustrated, dialed it back, saw his videos lift, and even the comments were saying, oh, this is your best video yet. He's like, I didn't put as much effort into this, but like he still put work into it. But just that mindset of like, don't be an extremist. Take kind of go back and forth and play with it. And even again, it changes as you pivot, as you grow, as you mature, your audience matures, like switching those levels based on what your needs are at that moment.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a thing too, because you don't know what you don't know if you haven't gotten the reps in. You need to have some reps in order to have first off, some sort of data, but secondly, an understanding of what works, what doesn't, what resonates with your audience as well.
There's the saying, leave the viewer wanting more.
Yeah.
Should the creator also be thinking along the lines of, I want to leave myself a little bit more at the end of every video? Like, I know I could spend an extra hour editing this 10 seconds of footage to get it look perfect, but is that a good use of my time on this particular video, or shall I save that skill and craft to practice it in the next video? And I don't know. I don't know if what's the right answer is there, because, you know, sometimes people will argue, I spent 3 hours on this 2-second visual clip, but it really nailed the message in the video. Like I've just finished editing a video, and I've been at it for I started on Friday, and I've had many interruptions, and I'm now at a point where I just want to get it done. And I don't know if that's the right attitude, but like, done is better than perfect, better than I'm so frustrated. I just want to throw this entire project in a bin and do something else, play on PlayStation 5 or something. But like I said, I've changed. It was going to be a much longer video, but I've decided to really focus on just one strategy in this video. Now it's going to be like a 7-minute video, and I'll save those ideas for a future video. I don't know if I made the right decision there, but it kind of just felt the right creative decision to make.
Well, I think that's the important thing right there, is it felt like the right creative decision to make. I think also creators need to ask themselves, what's the intent behind creating that video in the first place? Now, if it's because you're launching a product, then I would push back saying maybe you do want to spend more time.
Yeah, sure.
You know, right? But if this is about testing things out and it's a discoverable video and, you know, the stakes are not really high, then done is better than perfect, because that frees you up to create that next new piece, because you have many more videos to make down the line.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the mindset even of like thinking of it as perfect, like, is there ever a perfect video? Odds are not. And I think having that mindset sometimes too, and spending the time on making it perfect in your eyes will sometimes cause frustration when it doesn't perform, and then you feel even worse, as opposed to like, okay, I'm doing the best that I can. I feel I'm happy with where it's at. Let's see what happens and learn from there. So
yeah, and I think towards the end of the video, or the end of the creation process, there can be some of like the diminishing returns where there is a bit of a sweet spot of like, we've really put a really solid effort to make this as best as it can be. Would I rather spend 5 more hours maybe making it 2% better, or apply that same time to the next video where I could have a much bigger impact, making it much better and grow from there? So it can actually just cause you to slow down too if you're spending too much time and not moving.
And that's when you over edit.
Do the three of you feel like creators sometimes put a little too much on just a video or just the channel in general?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like analysis paralysis is a real thing.
Is
all
a really
three at once.
Thing to juggle.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to talk to you.
Yeah. All right. All at the same time. 1, 2, 3, go.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, like emotional investment is something that I really have to balance a lot. I like to get videos done in a single day. And I start at 9 o'clock in the morning and I finish at 5 o'clock at night. If it goes into a second day, that really, really annoys me, because it disrupts the creative flow. All of a sudden, something that would have taken 10 minutes the day before takes an hour to do the following day, because I'm just not in the zone. Like, I've kind of lost that connection with a video. I admit that is a very personal, creative desire. But when it goes into like 3 or 4 days, then like you get almost obsessed with completing the video, and because you spent more time on it, then it has to perform better, right? You know, the time in equals views out. Obviously, that's not often the case. And so, yeah, I've tried really hard throughout my YouTube journey to, let's see if I can pronounce this word correctly, because last time I tried to do this with Viper on his podcast, I fouled it up 20 times. Compartmentalize.
Nice job.
Said that word right. Yeah. Do that word very much with each video. And I think something you mentioned as well, Ingrid, was once you've published a video, you kind of need to let it breathe on the channel for like 28 days or whatever, so that you can go back and objectively look at it. And I'm very much, once the video's published and I've checked out the comments for a few hours, I need to start the next thing. I can't just keep focusing on that one video because it'll drive me insane. It's on YouTube. It's going to do what it's going to do. If we've got a title we can change it to, or a thumbnail we can change it to, which we probably should do, great. But starting the next project's important for me as well, just to keep that train moving. That's
a hard thing for creators. I think letting it breathe in general. I know for me, I'd watch it the day after. I'm like, okay, let's change the title and thumbnail right now. It's like, am I giving it enough time to find the right audience or get enough data to make that decision, or am I just doing it based on emotion, pure emotion? And that can be, especially in the early days too. Like I can't say right away I should go make a new title and thumbnail when it's trying to figure out who the audience of this video is. So I find myself in that trap.
I'll tell you what's not helped with that feeling, the of 10 analytic.
I can't look at that. It drives me crazy. I hate that thing. I've hated it from day one. That one
doesn't bother me, actually, surprisingly enough. But
if anything is 8, 9, or 10 of 10, like we're scrambling in the first hour. Like change a title, change a thumbnail. Let's rescue this. But you're right, Blake. Creator intent is really important, because there was one video I released recently, and it was a complete beginner's guide to how to make a YouTube short. And I knew, for once I told myself, Rob, this is going to be a 10 of 10. You know it's going to be a 10 of 10 because your intent is to get to the top of the search rankings. You know, it's not getting tons of interest today, but it's going to continue to get a substantial amount of interest in 100 days, 200 days, 300 days. So it did come out at 10 at 10, but I said, Rob, leave it. Do not touch it. And then 4 days later, external traffic. I was getting the Google search traffic. It's like, nailed it. But yeah, that's almost like another thing in terms of when you're planning the video, like, where do you think this is going to be after 24 hours? Do you think it's going to be a 1 of 10? Do you think it's going to be a 5 of 10? Do you think it's going to be a 10 of 10? You know, that can be governed by whether it's a discoverable video, community sales, or whatnot. So yeah, creator intent is something I'm trying to wrestle with as well.
I have a lot of clients who react a little too fast sometimes to the title thumbnail switch. I'm really more of the sit back, you got to watch it a little bit, see what happens. I've seen things impact and move up, you know, and then what's the silver lining here is what I always ask. You know, what did we learn? What is not resonating? Where do we think we might have been able to go differently? And usually when we're working on things, and I don't know about you guys, Rob, but I really try to encourage a lot of creators to have 3 options prior to hitting publish. Now, of course, if they're more established, if you're brand new, you could still do that. But I think just getting more reps versus overworking videos when you're doing quantity is a better strategy. But I'm curious if you have ever sat back and allowed more data to come in before making decisions on changes.
It used to be like that when it was just me on the channel. I didn't really have time to review the old content. It was a case of it's out now. I've got another video to make by Friday, or there's another deadline coming up. It's only when we've now started to build a team around our content that we are a bit more critical of every facet, the thumbnail and the title. And, here's a revelation. I used to / still do make the video before I make the title and the thumbnail, which is sacrilege. I know that. And I tell people that you shouldn't do that.
But do you ideate your title and your thumbnail?
Yeah, kind of.
First.
Yes or no?
We're going to be following up. We're going to be following up with you in Slack later.
So if one of the skill, I think my greatest skill, I've always rated me like a 6 out of 10 at every single facet of YouTube. So like I'm a 6 out of 10 at thumbnails, editing, being on camera, etc., etc. But I've always rated myself a 9 or a 10 out of 10 from taking that aha moment idea to a video. I feel as if I can do that very easily and very quickly. And so when it's a video about monetization or a YouTube update, it's like, aha, I don't need to think about what the title or the thumbnail is going to be. It'll just come to me in a flash of inspiration at some point in the creative process. But when it's something that we're putting together as a team, or it requires a bit more thought, the ideas coagulating. It's not fully formed straight out of the dome piece, so to speak. That's when we're thinking that we need to think about the title first and the thumbnail first, because if we don't know them, that's going to be really hard to translate into a hook, which is then really not going to feed into the rest of the video content. But I've always been, what I loved about YouTube was that I didn't have somebody telling me what to do. And I'm a doer. I love getting my hands dirty. And I just wanted to create content. And I haven't done 1,400 videos. I've done 2,000 plus videos with the old channel. And so to try and adjust from going from create first, thumbnail title second, to doing it the other way around, I still struggle with that. Even though all of our videos tell the exact opposite. I'm sorry.
I'm curious what it would look like if you were to run an experiment over time and approach it the other way.
Well, how do you mean?
Really intentionally come up with that title and thumbnail first.
So we're doing that now. Yeah,
but like long-term experiment. Because you need real data for that. Yeah. We will follow up.
Okay.
For sure.
Stay tuned part 2.
Stay tuned for part 2 on that one. 100%. 100%.
That's fine. I tend to do the same. I'll ideate my thumbnail beforehand, but I find that for me, getting past the editing, I love creating the thumbnail afterwards. It's like a breather for me to like relax and de-stress. I don't know what it is about designing the thumbnail, but I try to at least come up with ideas before going creating it. But that's just kind of like the icing on the cake for me at the end. I can relax, get this done, put it up, and feel happy just kind of doing it. But I take my time with the thumbnail too, but I tend to do that in that kind of journey.
But I think part of this too is, Rob's been doing this for so many years, and he has done this process over and over again. And sometimes in your niche, your thumbnails are going to look somewhat similar, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of have a good understanding of what that is, but you got to know what the title is. You have to know what that first line is before you can craft the second, or it can be completely backwards. Now, if you're a brand new creator who doesn't have that experience, would you still say the same?
No, I think, instincts over time has certainly helped shape that. But if somebody said that to me as a new creator, I would probably resist it because I would just want to make the videos. I would just want to get creative. And spending more than 10 minutes on a thumbnail, what, are you nuts? I don't want to do that. I just need to put in some keywords for the title, right? There's that level of education that kind of that suddenly makes YouTube not as fun. Oh, I have to do these bits first. Oh, I thought I just needed to stand in front of a camera, press a red button and dance. You can go over and TikTok and do that. Yeah.
So sell the audience on why that would be a good exercise for them.
It does make huge proven differences. It will help you in the long run to guide your content. We talk about a value proposition is a North Star of a channel. Theoretically, the title should be the North Star of your video, so it guides your content. And you'll soon realize that when you are putting together titles and thumbnails at the back end of a process, you don't spend long enough on the thumbnails, and you tend to just try and shove everything that was in the video into the thumbnail. So it's too complicated and it's poorly put together. So my general advice is, like, if you don't have time to really focus on anything else, and this is something I want to get back to you about, Sam, actually, in terms of if somebody's saying they don't have enough time to invest in improving their content, what do you say to them? And my suggestion would be, focus on three things, which are the packaging of a content. So, wrap the video before you actually put the contents inside. And that is the thumbnail, which you should spend twice as long on as you currently do, whatever that is. You should make it half as complicated as it currently is. And then in terms of titles, try to emphasize one, curiosity, and the basic desire of your target audience. So a title goes from something along the lines of how to write titles to get more views for your YouTube videos to something along the lines of small channels do this to double your views in 5 minutes. Because we're targeting the audience, which is small channel. We're giving them the basic desire, which is to grow and to do it fast. I know there's a lot, I rambled a little bit there. I do apologize, but that was kind of like the gist. So yeah, Sam, going back to the question of like time, how would you answer that when people say they don't have enough time?
Yeah, my first question back is usually, what are you doing with your time? Because I think it can be a very valid, maybe you're super busy, you don't have a lot of time to work on the channel. Like, of course, like it's going to be a bit of an obstacle for you. But I do also think that for a lot of creators, you can use that time spent in the best places that are going to be, that's going to make the most impact for your channel. So I would totally agree. I think the title thumbnail is so important because, like, yes, it's the click. Like, you could have an amazing video, and if nobody clicks in, you've totally lost. It's no one's ever going to watch it if they're not clicking in. But I even, we're in retention graphs all the time looking at data, and it's so interesting to see how directly the title thumbnail affects the performance of the video too, once the viewer's in the video. It's so interesting to see every time that, that interesting idea that you're presenting in the title and the thumbnail, once that's kind of reinforced. And it's even interesting to see too, when the thumbnail is actually kind of replicated, like that shot of your thumbnail, when that is shown. And again, it kind of comes back to that picture's worth 1,000 words. When that same image is shown, the retention gets really flat because the viewer then feels like this is worth my time. So then in the opening seconds, that higher retention is going to affect the rest of the video. Maybe you have a call to action at the end of your video to go watch another video. If more people are getting to that point, more people, this whole snowball effect happens just from spending a little bit more time on your title and thumbnail, which for most creators, that's the thing that they hate. And it's usually, this video is the best information, everything is great packed in here. Oh, I gotta, it's uploading right now. I gotta think of a title thumbnail. Let's just throw something in here. And then that definitely creates some frustration. So
I feel like there's something key though that you haven't quite gotten to yet, that people don't realize. And this is really one of the reasons why it's so important to think about that thumbnail and the title in the beginning, is because thinking about those retention graphs, Sam, you and I have looked at an insane number working with clients. Yep. And there's one clear pattern, regardless of the niche, regardless of the creator. When you've answered the pitch that you talked about in your title and the thumbnail, when you answered that in your video, whether it's visual, whether it's just talking about it, there's always a consistent loss from that point on. So if you haven't thought about that in the beginning and you position that too early in your video, you will lose people. And that can greatly affect the performance of your content.
I would say there are a lot of creators who they put the solution or the answer like in the thumbnail. So if the title is, small channels use this secret, or like use this to get more views, and then in the thumbnail, if it says, whatever the topic of the video, whatever the answer is going to be, somebody could even look at that and be like, oh, I'm already doing that. Yeah, I can just keep scrolling. There's no point for me to click in. So you do have to be a little bit strategic with, you don't want to. And again, it comes back to viewer satisfaction, because you don't want to just purposely make this long video where you're like teasing and teasing and teasing, and you don't ever, it's just a frustrating video to watch. But you also don't want to just give it away way too quickly and show your hand. You want to make it curious, but you also want to make it a satisfying experience for the viewer too.
That's where the but comes in too, because you can say like, well, here's the answer, but there's something else that's really important that's going to help affect this, right? Now you're opening up the conversation to even more. yes, you've satisfied them, given that one answer, but now there's more they want to know more about.
I feel like it's really important to just, I mean, we've kind of been talking about this the whole time. It's really about just really thinking about it from the viewer perspective. Okay, they've clicked in, you've teased them, you've gotten them in a little bit further, you're expertly pulling them through with your story. You know, how do you want them to feel at that point? If you're not thinking about the audience, you're really doing a disservice to your content, potentially your business, if you're a business person, you know, and you're trying to drive people somewhere because you want to sell something. So I feel like it's really, really important for us to approach content, not just from good or great ideas, even, you know, thinking about the packaging, you know, in the very beginning, but really, I want us to kind of go back now, even to the audience a little bit. What do you guys, do you have any like practical tips at all? Because there are a lot of how-to channels out there, you know, and we kind of touched a little bit on authority earlier. Do you have any, you know, practical tips for how to get away from wanting to just be that authority and producing excellent content for the viewer?
I think for me, the frustrated creator that comes to mind is the one who is an authority in their space. They're frustrated because, you know, it's my information is better than this creator over here. You know, they're just, it's very surface level. It's not the best information on this particular subject. And look at their channel. Like it's huge. They're getting all kinds of views and I'm not getting those views. Like why? Like there's frustration there. And I think the value in the information is different than the value in the content. You know, obviously the better information you're giving is going to make the content better, but I think you need to also think of YouTube as a platform and how do I kind of YouTubeify this? Like, how do I make this friendly for the platform? And so to get tangible, I would really start to look at kind of the viewer journey as far as there's an audience out there that you're not reaching. That is your target audience. How do you get them? What's step one? How do you get them in the video? So I would probably think of title, thumbnail first. How do we make these better to get somebody into your video in the first place? And then start working through your video structure from start to finish. How are we going to hold them and hold their attention? How are we going to deliver this great information? But how are you going to be personal? And this is where it's like if we're going to YouTubeify this, how do you come across as a human? And how is somebody going to watch your content and not just stay for the information, but stay because they like the way that you are delivering the information? I think that is a big disconnect that I run up against, because a lot of, especially really smart, you know, authorities in the space can kind of, it turns into kind of teaching, you know, it's a presentation that they're uploading, and it's not necessarily, you know, a human conversational experience, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts.
It's not just authority, it's personality. And that's one thing people seem to miss.
I feel like Rob has done that really well, quite honestly. I feel like you treat the audience as if, first off, you genuinely want to help them versus just talk at them. Yeah,
I think I have subconsciously been doing this for many years. And now it's only as I've been introduced to primal branding, how concrete those techniques are starting to shape in my head. I think my thought was always along the lines of, I'm kind of learning along with the viewer, you know, feeling as if I'm a few steps ahead. So how do I make this content sticky with the viewer? And I think it's just trying to make it memorable in some way, which may not necessarily be attached to the education, but it's more, I'll just be honest, entertaining in some way, making it, you know, as you say, more personal, more casual, more approachable. You know, I'm not your teacher in one sense. I'm just creating along with you, but it just so happens that my passion is helping you on your YouTube journey, as opposed to your passion is helping somebody learn how to use their iPhone or how to defeat the final boss on a certain game. And so now, as primal branding is becoming more solidified, trying to take these subconscious things into a conscious and active way of doing it, that's been quite a struggle, I must admit. And I've been we've been going through the video creators audit action plan with Sam, and it feels clunky, but now that I'm aware of it, I think over time it's going to sort of coalesce into being able to be more subconsciously aware of all of these primal branding strategies. And I'm saying this as if you've probably talked about primal branding ad nauseum on the podcast, so everybody knows what we're talking about. I'm just going to make that assumption.
Just a few times.
Yeah.
But you know what I really love is you really, and I think this is the real important lesson here, is that you have the learner's mindset. So even you 1,400 videos in on the channel, right? You're diving into something new, and it's clunky, and that's okay. And being okay with that, you're not going to get it right on the first time. Nobody does, but this is about competing against yourself, right?
Yeah. When we were just talking about the goals of where do we want the channel to go, I'm now at a point, and this may sound a bit, like I'm flexing. I'm not as interested in how many views we get on the channel anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm more interested in the quality of the view, because I assume if it's a higher quality of view, it's going to develop more quickly that like, know, and trust factor. Because ultimately, vidIQ's objective as a channel is to raise awareness of vidIQ and have people learn as much as they can, learn as much as humanly possible for free from us. But you know what? If you want to take YouTube to the next level and have that mentor, that one-on-one coaching, is this a plug? I don't know if it's a plug. We haven't got any room on the one-on-one coaching anyway. But you found vidIQ. Rob and Dan are fun and personable, and we'll help you with these live videos. But if you want to really talk to a coach every single day, then we've got a product that hopefully you may want to invest in. But that starts with us. I feel as if now I've more duty and responsibility to take somebody's hand and guide them down the path to where you are in that vidIQ process.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that you do so expertly is connection. Because I know myself, I always have felt like you're in my corner. And it's funny to me that you also struggle a little bit with imposter syndrome sometimes. I don't need you to be like the godfather of YouTube strategy. The fact that you're in my corner and the fact that you work diligently for years, you've done that to keep me informed, to keep me sharp, to keep me learning something new. That's what I want. And that's why I would come back and why I have for years. For what that's worth.
Yeah. Even to piggyback on that, I think the longer that we are venturing into YouTube, the more saturated it's going to get. And so even with AI too, it's just the barrier to entry is so low. It's so easy for more and more similar types of channels to just blossom and grow. So even with YouTube education, like there's all kinds of YouTube education channels and resources out there. So I think more than ever, it's just going to continue to be more important to have that some way to grow the know, like, and trust factor and make a connection between the viewer and the creator. Because if they have all kinds of options for learning how to do YouTube better, learning how to cook better, learning how to do the DIY, fixing your toilet better, whatever that's going to look like, I think the more that you're able to quickly make a connection with the creator, that person's now going to feel like, oh, okay, well, I've got options, but I like this guy. I like the way that this person delivers the information. I'm going to stick around because I feel like I know them and I can trust them. So
I feel like people forget that it's social media sometimes too. Like it's a platform, but it's social media. People want to connect with you. They want to come back. And when we approach it from just like it's a place to dump our videos, that's when we kind of get lost in the direction of what we're trying to accomplish here. And again, I've had people come back to me and say, you know, well, this person, like, I'm an authority in my space and this person is doing really well. It's like, cool, let's chat about this person. What do we know about this person? Odds are there's personality there, there's prominent branding there, there's all these elements of that human that make people want to come back. The information may not be maybe on par or as great as you in your space and your authority, but they're doing something to allow people to build that trust to come back to them. I've seen people who don't give the best information on certain topics, but because they're so likable, people come back for them, even though the information is maybe subpar or whatever it may be. That personality aspect is so key. And problem branding is like, it's not like you can just implement it once or twice and you're going to see results of it. Like, it takes time to build a ritual. A ritual isn't twice; it's many, many times over many videos. Like, so that tool is something that needs to have that marathon in order for it to work.
I feel like when you ultimately realize that the algorithm really truly equals people, your perspective shifts, you show up differently, you level up your connection. It's still going to be work. You know, we're not going to lie there. But ultimately, the way you should really think about it is it's all psychology. What will attract your viewer, what will keep them engaged, what makes them click to watch more, what gets them to engage within your community, and then also what helps them come back.
Every week, we love to leave you with a power tip, something new that YouTube is doing on the platform. And this week, I want to talk something a little bit about playlists, actually, Rob's favorite we talked about earlier. And that is now when you're swiping through the Shorts feed on your phone, you can actually go and save 2 playlists from that Shorts feed, making it easier for the viewer to kind of save the videos they want, but also helping to create a more curated playlist as well. What are your guys' thoughts about the amazing playlists and all the value they can bring to our channel and our creators? What do you think, Rob? What do you like about playlists?
Playlists in Shorts, Here's my question. How often do you want to rewatch a short or a TikTok once you've seen it? Usually it's in the moment where you just want to share it with your friend or a family member at the time. So I think from a convenience point of view, incredible for the viewer to just add to a playlist. I assume was this with like a single tap? It's a new bit of UI on the right hand side. Yeah. It's not, you don't have to tap on the 3 dots and then add to playlist. It's like frictionless. Or
I can't remember. I think it might have been the 3 dots actually.
Was it? I don't remember.
I don't remember actually. Yeah.
Sorry, have I kind of ruined the power tip there by us not
No, it's
exactly how it works.
No, it's totally fine.
It was so new. They literally just announced it.
It hasn't been rolled out fully yet either. So,
I was elated when I heard this because it's the one thing that I have been wanting with Shorts was the ability to actually save some shorts, because every now and then I come across shorts, and maybe this kind of, you know, I'm pushing back a little bit on what you said here, Rob, because for me, sometimes there's like a cooking thing. It's like it goes to the how-to type niche, right? Yep. Or sometimes there's that little bit of information that somebody just was so expert at in giving me in under 60 seconds that I want to save it. And I've always been frustrated that I can't. So...
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, like with recipes. And even for us, it's funny because I think I've told you guys, but my wife and I have a routine. We call it the funnies. So we'll save like funny TikToks that we've seen throughout the day. And usually it's every couple days, like we're kind of going to bed and it's like, all right, we're gonna watch the funnies. And so we pull up like all of the funny ones that we've saved and just kind of go through them. So I could see that being of use for this too. Maybe if there's a really funny YouTube short that you saw and you want to save it to a playlist, and then maybe you have like the funnies playlist. I could see some value for that too.
That is a really good point actually, because we found that search is like this is kind of like a super tip within a super tip, but search traffic from YouTube Shorts is a thing, and we are exploiting it, I would say, at this point. So if you're searching for something and you then get the answer on a short, yeah, absolutely, you probably want to add that to a very convenient playlist. What I would then sort of argue forward is, can we please have custom thumbnails back for YouTube Shorts?
Yes.
Because if you're searching and you see the short shelf and it has a dedicated thumbnail, people are more likely to tap on it than like a transition of my face, which just makes it look awful, which we've had experiences of recently. I've thumbnailed 2 shorts in a really clunky way. You can do it. And those are getting tons of views from search. So I don't know who I don't know if I'm just shouting into I'm shouting at a YouTube cloud here saying, please give me custom thumbnails. But
well, yeah. I did hear Todd, the Shorts algorithm, not Todd Beaupre, the other Todd. It's okay. Just funny to me that the 2 main algorithms are both run by Todds. YouTube Todds. I heard him say in an interview along with Renee Ritchie that you are going to be able, you can select your thumbnail by frame.
Yeah, not good enough.
Right. They're going to allow that, but they don't have a plan for custom thumbnails for that.
Nonsensical. They removed that tool from the desktop feature.
I remember. Yeah, I used to do a custom thumbnail all the time.
Yeah, I've always wondered with that, like for a short, what if the first 3 seconds of your short is like literally crafted as a thumbnail with your intriguing text and everything, and you can select that as your thumbnail. I mean, I agree. I'd rather just be able to create a custom one and upload it, but even just knowing that it affects kind of the hook of your short, having kind of that, it's almost like a thumbnail in the opening seconds might help with your kind of retention as well. So that could be kind of a workaround once they implement that.
Well, I kind of feel like that's how you have to look at your short too, is the first couple seconds as a thumbnail.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially if it's in the feed and it's just
because somebody's deciding whether to stay or swipe away.
So the hack for that is that you do put the thumbnail at the beginning of a short, upload it through YouTube Shorts so you can select that thumbnail, but then go into the desktop editor and then remove those frames with the thumbnail in so it stays there. I don't know if that hack is going to remain. We tell people not to hack YouTube. I did for that purpose, and it's working for now. But yeah, going back to the original point, search-based shorts content, adding it to a playlist, a viewer playlist curated, you've convinced me, Ingrid. I'm going all in on playlists.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been like an amazing conversation. It's been so fun to have you here, for sure. For sure.
Pleasure to have me. Yeah, let's do this again. Absolutely. Let's do this tomorrow. Yeah. I'm fired up. Daily podcast from now on. You heard it here first.
Well, thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you next week. Bye.